band gets involved, you know. So I go up to Brody.
I just pulled that pants down.
I go up to Brody like, yeah, and the kid, poops out Chris Jericho ice cream.
That's right.
But like I go up to Mr. Brody, I'm like, sir, it's such an honor to meet you, and he's like, you're pretty big. How old are you there, son? You know, because by now I'm about the same size. Back then at 15, I'm like about this much shorter, still fat, but not like that. You know, not built like this. And Brody's like, you know, you two ain't too bad. He goes, you know what? He goes, what are you doing after this? I go, we're security and Gophers.
What you doing? Talking too loud? Oh, okay. Go stay with mommy. I'll quiet him down.
Okay. The boss said to quiet down. So he's like, hey, Mike, come here. So the promoter comes over. He goes, you see these two? He goes, yeah. He goes, they do nothing except for me tonight. And we're like, what the hell is going on? You know, we're scared. We don't really know what's going on, you know? So we go into his locker room, and Brody sits us down, and he starts giving us lectures, and he's telling us how to do this and how not to do that and how to do business and what not to do for business. And I mean, me and Candido were like, this is great. And I remember Fantastics came in, and they knew we were there, and we were out getting something for Brody, and we were coming back. I think we got him like a couple waters. And Fantastics was like, yo, kid, why didn't you get us anything like that, you dumb? And Brody goes, you leave them alone. And we were like, oh, yeah, all right. You know, we're cool. A month later, Brody was dead.
Oh,
you know, a month, that was like his last appearance in New Jersey. And then the next thing we heard about Brody was when that scumbag Jose Gonzalez, you know, opened him up like a fish, you know. I did get him for that too, so.
Good.
I didn't kill him, but he did get a broken nose for it, so.
Balls, how did you break into wrestling?
Well?
Because you jumped from being a little snot fat kid with his grandfather, who all of a sudden setting up rings with Chris Candido.
Well, see, I met Chris playing baseball. You know, I said I did play a lot of sports, baseball, right. Soccer. I was too big for football, but basketball. And I remember getting to the game early, and I was like one of the first ones there. And you can ask the Maniac, at the wrestling shows, I am the first one, 99% of the time, I'm the first one there, dressed, taped, and ready to go.
First one they asked for their pay?
First one asked for the pay, too.
Yeah, Mr. Goodman told me about that.
Well, Mr. Goodman's also the first guy in the wrestling business who actually walks up to you and goes, hey, buddy, how you doing? It's good to see. And you're like, oh, okay, you know, what am I going to do with what's this? That's your pay. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Mr. Goodman. Well, you're paid. And I mean, there ain't no promoters that do that.
Except Mr. Goodman.
Except Mr. Goodman. But, there was a fly. I'm sorry.
How did you break into wrestling, Mr. Mahoney?
This kid I see on the field is wearing these baseball pants. He's got cleats literally on the wrong shoes. You ask him, it's a true story. He's got his cleats on the wrong shoes. He's got his hat on sideways. He's got his glove on the wrong head. He's wearing a Hot Rod t-shirt. So of course I start talking wrestling with him, and you know we're playing baseball, and he's out in the outfield doing something. I whack a ball out to him. The kid actually throws the glove up in the air, hits the glove, catches it in his hat, and gets me out. I played first base, so I did the old hit. They walk. I said, walk him. I'm like, well, I walked the kid, you know, because he got that stupid catch, and I got him with the hidden ball trick, and then he wouldn't leave because we're still talking about like the last night on, yesterday on wrestling with the what Piper did on the pit and everything. So after the game's over, I met his mom, and he's like, you know, you want to be a wrestler? I'm like, I've always wanted to be a wrestler. You know, I'm 12 years old at the time. He goes, well, yeah, show at Convention Hall, you know, Asbury Park, they used to run a lot. That's coming up. I'm like, yeah, my friend has tickets. He goes, show up there at 12 o'clock. And I'm like, okay. He'll show up there at 12 o'clock, ask for Chuck Richards. I'm like, okay. And Chris Candido, and I met his grandfather that Saturday, and he's like, all right, kid, take that post. You know, you're a 12-year-old fat kid, and you got the steel ring post. He's like, all right, kid, pick that post up and bring it over there and put it in. And he's, you know, and it's Chuck Richards and Augie Weil, Larry Sharp's late father. It was his ring. It was Chuck and Larry and Augie used to run shows together. And we started setting up the ring. We got the ring up, and next thing I know, I'm in the ring getting waffled by Chuck Richards, going, yeah, what? And you know, when you got a 250-pound veteran, old man, like he's not, you know, he was an older man then, but he still is a man. You know, this guy used to train old school style. You know, a guy who'd like do 7,000. You know, curls because they didn't know that was overtraining, so he's got forms the size of this, and when he hits a 12-year-old kid, because you're first day he fell to the side wrong. He goes, "That's wrong." Boom! It leaves an impression on you, you know. And then just every show we can get to, whether I mean, it's not just independent shows. You're talking about Great American Bashes, WWF before they stopped putting they put an end to anybody who wasn't an employee. This is back when Vince Sr. was still alive. And I mean, we would go to any place where we could set up a ring or learn or to go for work. I mean, you name it, we were there. I mean, we were in front row for one of I think the Great American Bash. When they did one in Philly, they did one in Maryland, and
right.
You know, they went on tour. And we actually made it to Maryland. And then when we got old enough, when we were ages 15, when we were 14, 15, or 16, we were actually like, backyard wrestling is kind of our fault. We were the first ones to ever get a ring because obviously we knew these, you know, the Monster Factory students because we would travel to Monster Factory once a month if we could. We'd pull our money in, get a ride with anybody we could, and we would go get our asses handed to us by all these students, you know, and. We would rent a ring every summer and put it up in the park and get MS to back the money for the ring, and we'd pass around a hat, and all the Monster Factory students would come down, and we'd put on a wrestling show. So it wasn't actually backyard wrestling. The only backyard wrestlers were like me, Chris, his best friend Scott at the time, like he was my friend too, and then a couple kids who we were friends with, we'd like put like a cloth, like take a cloth, couple of cloth Rising Sun bandanas and sew them together and put it on a kid. This kid John Lou here, I remember. We put it on him. He goes, "You're the Rising Sun." He goes, "Okay, what do I do?" He goes, "You go out there and let him beat you up." He goes, "Okay." So we're out there, and we didn't know any better. We're like, you know, clotheslining with the wrong arm, and you know, arm dragging the wrong arm and punching with the lefts, and it was fun then. But as you know, and then we learned about underground shows in New York City, like. Most of the shows we went to were at the Galaxia Sporting Gym.
Right, like unlicensed type stuff.
Right, the unlicensed, yeah, the underground.
And how old were you?
15.
So from like 12 to like 15, you're setting up rings?
Setting up rings, training.
Right.
And not only in ring, but during the week, I mean, we live right by the ocean, we're bumping on the sand. I mean, you can't work on ropes. I mean, when you got in the ring, the first thing we did was crisscross.
Right.
You know, we'd learn in the ring. But our bumps were fine because we had the beach and you got guardrails. We're superplexing each other off guardrails. We're taking clotheslines. Chuck would say, "You're taking your hip tosses bad." Or Augie would say, your arm drags suck. Go work on 100 arm drags. So every day after school, we'd meet even at night. And if the sand was wet, we'd go on the dirt. And we'd do 100 arm drags each and take them on the dirt, you know? Kind of both of us are
so when was your first unlicensed show then? Your first unlicensed match?
First unlicensed but paid match. I was 15 years old, and me and Candido tagged against Black Gorman, and for the life of me, I cannot remember who the other wrestler was. Neither can Chris, because when they did that first PWI spread on, they said, you know, youngest wrestler ever, 15 years old against Black Gorman. That's a lie. It was a tag team match, and we didn't know who the other wrestler was, and by that point, when Chris got that spread, I had gotten... Because when Chris was 17, he actually was licensed.
Right.
He actually got licensed in New Jersey at 17 because his principal at his school forged a birth certificate for him so he could get licensed. Whereas I was captain of a football team, wrestling team. I wanted to go to college. And I wrestled a year in college, blew my right knee in college. In fact, I was the first high school athlete that I know. In fact, this is a fact. I was the first high school athlete naturally to squat 1,000 pounds. And I did the squat, and when I came up, you know, you squat, you come like that, and you come up with 1,000 pounds. God, it hurts just to do that. When I stepped forward, you know, put the weight up, my knee locked, and all the cartilage in here. I mean, I started a scar there, and there.
Yeah, but do that squat again. Let me see it.
Squat like that?
Yeah.
You got it. But I did that. Stepped up.
And you folks thought this was going to be a boring shoot interview with some bald-headed chemo-looking dude named Nick Knowledge. I don't think so.
Who's Nick Knowledge?
That's that bald-headed guy at Jack's, at the ICW shoot videos.
ICWshootvideos.com.
That's right.
But, so when Chris was wrestling professionally, really licensed, and when he met Tammy, it was actually, I think it was 17 or 18 or 19. He was 17 and 19. He was wrestling Johnny Hotbody on a show. I was far more advanced he was than I was at the time. He's out there, he meets Tammy, he sees this girl in the crowd, goes, "Ooh, throw me out over there," and then, you know, "Hey, meet me in for the show," and the rest, of course, is,
right.
You know, Sunday in history. But while he was doing that, I'm running 5 miles a day. I'm wrestling in college. I'm going undefeated. I toss a guy. I'm in the finals of the national qualifier. Launched the guy in the third period. I'm winning 13 zip. put him down, pin him, tore all the cartilage in my right knee. So I had to get the surgery, and I had to bow out